Because I'm going to have to get up.
We got to leave you. I'm supposed to be a... Son, what you been doing?
Feeding home, following Maggie and them horses.
Yeah.
Yep, wide open.
Hey, he gets the horses and shit, man. It's
We
good.
got a lady out of Simpsonville, Whitcliffe Insurance.
They know?
Whitcliffe?
Yeah.
Out of Simpsonville. She got...
You don't know who the company she got to, is it?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I don't.
Find out. So it's a girl that's got your other horse, the one you just sold to, I guess. Hillary and Justin.
They need some.
Trying to help me get
I need
set
to
up.
cancel mine.
Yeah, trying to help me get set up.
She's got my name and everything for my business. Her husband team rode sheep barrel racing, so she knew all about everything.
Yeah.
And team rode with them. And I put her ring up. I was like, hey, what do I need to do? She said, I know what you need to do. So here's the address. Tell me what I owe.
No, that's good. So I got here and read pages of management.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think I know most of you in the room. Glad you came out tonight. I am Michael McCracken. I'm the principal here at Aynor High School. We're very honored to have you here and to be hosting this event. Very honored to have our representatives here. And we just appreciate all you do. Hopefully, that a lot of good stuff will come out of this. And we always want to thank the Aynor Chamber and always looking to connect with business and industry and the chamber here for our students at Aynor High School. So keep us in mind, come visit me, and I just wanted to greet you and say thank you for being here, and thank all of you guys for being here as well. We're very glad and honored to have you at Aynor High School. All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Sandy, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCracken, and thank you for allowing us to utilize your facility today. We really appreciate it. So thank you all for joining us. As you all know, this is the new Aynor Chamber that we have reestablished. We've had some very hardworking board members, and I would like for all of the Aynor Chamber board members to stand and be recognized for helping put this together tonight. Thank you all. I know how much the Aynor community means to you all, and this is just a little kickoff tonight to recognize some of the leaders who help make things possible in our area and to give you a chance to ask questions to better understand things in our community. I also would like to recognize Ashley, the city of Aynor, town of Aynor. Is that right, Ashley? Okay. Town of Aynor. She didn't want to be recognized, and I thought I had the name wrong. But she is the town manager for Aynor, and we're also very excited to work with you and to have your partnership. It means a lot. Thank you. So I would like to recognize our panel for tonight. We have Mr. Russell Fry. He is the U.S. House of Representatives, South Carolina's 7th Congressional District, and he has been serving since January 3rd, 2023. He attended Congressional High School and has been a native of our area. He's very familiar with Aynor, very interested in Horry County as a whole, and we are excited that he took time out of his schedule today to join us. Senator Kent Williams, he has been serving our area since 2004, representing Dillon, Florence, Horry, Marion, and Marlborough counties. He has, prior to the Senate, he served as the chair of the Marion County Board of Education. He serves on the Agriculture and Natural Resources, Banking and Insurance, Ethics, Finance, Labor, Commerce, and Industry. And he has had a lot to do with Aynor recently, and he will share some of those highlights with you in just a few moments. Mr. Lucas Atkinson with the South Carolina House of Representatives, District 57. He has served since November 2016, representing portions of Horry, Marion, and Williamsburg counties. He attended Clemson University. They're doing great in football this year, right? And he has key committees are agriculture, natural resources, and environmental affairs, government efficiency, and legislative oversight. And we also have Mr. Al Allen from Horry County Council, District 11. He is a native of Georgetown and raised in the Baker's Chapel community of Western Horry County. I do not think he is a stranger to our area. He is also an ordained minister, chaplain, and former EMT with the Aynor Volunteer Rescue Squad. So we look forward to hearing from each of them tonight. We also want to encourage you as we finish hearing from them that you also feel free to ask questions from the audience.
Yeah, they're just blocking their faces.
So we'll start with you, Mr. Lucas, if you want to tell a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. My name is Lucas Atkinson, and I represent District 57, which includes parts of Marion, Williamsburg, and Horry County. I used to represent a small portion of Horry County, but with our last redistricting with our census, I picked up a good bit more. Representative Jeff Johnson they split his district up some. I had the other side of 501, so PD Highway where the holiday turned that way, and I represent, if you voted, the easiest way to tell you, if you voted Midland School or the Galvin's Ferry Store, you're in my district. But, glad to be here. I've been getting around Horry County a good bit, and, if there's anything I can help you with, please feel free just to reach out to me.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm Kent Williams, represent Senate District 30, as already been stated by Sandy. Let me say it's a pleasure and honor to be here this afternoon to have this conversation with the citizens here of Aynor. You all know way more about Aynor and the needs for Aynor than I do, so not only do I want to say a few words, answer some questions and what have you, but I want to hear from you as well. I grew up in Marion County. It's my home county. I represent 5 counties: Marion, Dillon, Darlington, Florence, and Horry, the northwestern part of Horry County. And they're all communities of interest. And just let me say, I am a small town rural community senator. I get it. I was born and raised right across the river there, right on the Little PD River, Davis Landing, as the crow flies down that river about 2 miles. So listen, I know the challenges that we're faced in these small rural communities, and oftentimes we get left behind, but you've always heard the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I just want to applaud the Chamber of Commerce for starting this conversation here this evening and really getting engaged, because this is what it takes. It starts here on the local level. There's one thing about politicians, there are a lot of things we don't get right, Congressman, but one thing we can do, we can count. 1 + 1 is 2. So numbers mean something. So when you make a lot of noise, you can get their attention. So I really appreciate the opportunity to serve and represent you here in this community, believe it or not, for the last 21 years. And I look forward to this conversation. And I'm not a stranger. I'm at home. I do a lot of business here in Horry County. I always have in this Aynor community. I do more business here than I do in Marion because I live closer here to Aynor. So thank you for having me tonight.
Well, the least of all, up here, I was always taught to stand up. Something to talk, so not meaning to be rude. Al Allen, serving District 11, one of the 2 largest geographical county council districts inside of Horry County. And as I look over the faces here, and I was counting, over half the people here have called me way more than once, and even recently and stuff. But I happen to be the most senior county councilman at this time. I'm in my 19th consecutive year. I never realized that. So I thought about it because I first took office in 2007 and never dreamed of getting into politics. And, somebody, a dear friend of mine approached me and said, "Look, so you need to run for the county." I said, "No, man, I don't want nothing to do with that mess. I don't want nothing to do with it." He said, "Oh, yeah,
And then families started calling, and friends started calling, you know, some of y'all started calling, yeah, you gotta do this. So I did it, and, you know, I'm here. So, but I'm thankful because I have been able to help people on a local level. I see y'all every day in the hardware store, at the gas station. And all of you's got my cell phone number, and when you need me, you call me. Ain't that right, David? You call me, and so when I try to answer you, unless I'm flying, and so and then when I land, and so then I try to call you back. So, but I enjoy serving you. I thank you for the opportunity to serve you. And there's been a lot of changes inside of Horry County in the last 20 years, in the last 10. And there's probably going to be a whole lot more in the next 10 and stuff. So hopefully, most of it will be good. And we'll be able to work together and do what's best for our area here in the county. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, Councilman. Russell Fry, your congressman. I'm actually home this week. I should be in Washington, but we're in a government shutdown. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, kind of give you a brief overview of what's happening in D.C. or maybe not happening in D.C. First, I want to say thank you to the Aynor Chamber of Commerce, recently formed, but this is kind of cool to do this. And I think somebody said the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's huge, and I think that's true. I mean, what are businesses saying about doing business in Aynor? That's huge. What is that? Obviously, there are differences between that and Loris and Myrtle Beach and Surfside, but there's some commonalities too. But I think it's important for all of us up here. I've worked together well, and when I was in the state legislature with these two gentlemen, I think they do a fantastic job representing this area. They're hardworking. We don't always agree on stuff, but a lot of times we do. And Al Allen, I've known him for a long time. He's a great councilman. You got a good advocate. Sandy, of course, this has been like the Sandy Davis day. I've been with Sandy all day. She got me working today. Washington is an interesting place, and we are in a government shutdown. So what does that necessarily mean, and how do we get here? In the prior administration, Republicans and Democrats voted 13 times. Democrats voted 13 times to do a continuing resolution to fund the government to a certain point, right? A certain point fixture in time. In March of this year, they did the same thing. And as we go through what we call appropriations work, which is the budget, I think it's important to know that you know, sometimes because of the big, beautiful bill and some other things, that things just kind of get backed up. And so the Appropriations Committee said, look, we've got 4 bills over in the Senate that we've passed, 4 out of 12. We've got 8 that are out of committee. They're ready for the floor, but we need more bandwidth. We're going to have to do a continuing resolution. The President supported it. The Speaker supported it. Everyone really supported it. There's no policy writers on this continuing resolution. So when you hear the Speaker say nonpartisan, it wasn't like Republicans came in and jammed a bunch of extra stuff on top of it, right? It was just we're going to continue to fund the government at the same level, no increase or decrease, for 7 weeks. What was good for Democrats 13 times 2 years ago, and even once this year in March, is no longer good. And so we are here today because Senate Democrats have decided to play politics instead of just continuing government funding. Now, why they're doing that, you'll have to ask them. But we are here today in what they call a government shutdown. And so, practically speaking, what does that mean? Well, it means our military is not getting paid until President Trump did some stuff last week to make sure that they get paid, or they got paid for their last paycheck. It means that air traffic controllers that are in Myrtle Beach or Florence or anywhere in the country, they're not getting paid. It means that our law enforcement personnel at the Bureau of Prisons or our FBI or our ICE agents, they're not getting paid. It means that veterans who do telehealth, where they telephone into a doctor in a visual screening because maybe they can't make it to a VA clinic, they're not able to do that. It means passport offices are backlogged. It means that things that people have come to rely on are no longer provided for. In this area specifically, we're in a hurricane season right now. Flood insurance is not operable right now because of the government shutdown. Thankfully, we don't have a hurricane on our doorstep, but that's where we would be if there was. And so it's a pretty alarming measure because shutdowns have happened before. They've happened many times, but they've never happened for a clean continuing resolution. They've usually happened because there's an increase or a decrease in total spending. They've usually happened because there's a bunch of policy writers that come onto a continuing resolution to maybe jam the other side. We've never shut down the government for a clean continuing resolution. And that's where we are. And so, how do we get out of that? Well, we hope that the Senate comes to reason, right? We hope that they act like they did 13 times prior. If this was chock full of a bunch of Republican priorities, you could at least conceptualize why they would object. This doesn't make any sense to me. I operate in the world of reality and common sense, and this doesn't make any sense. Does it make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me either. So we're kind of in that world right now, and we hope to get out of it soon. But until then, we're in district. We're bouncing around. We were at the Loris Bog-Off last weekend. We've been out in the western part of Horry County today. We're kind of doing stuff in district. I will say it's been a pretty good year overall, though. You look at some of the progress that's made. First of all, you have a president in the White House who's lightning fast. He is constantly engaged. The man does not sleep. Whether you agree with his politics or not, he is much faster than the previous administration. This president is awake for 20 hours a day and sleeps for 4. The last president slept for 20 and was awake for 4. And that's really kind of the difference in a lot of ways. But you look at some of the progress that was made compared to his first term. The big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, any one of those policies that were involved in that bill, would have been a huge win for the American people. Huge. When you look at the expensing that businesses can now take, that's a massive win. When you look at working families and that they have a better or greater child tax credit, when their standard deduction goes up, that's more money in their pocket. When you look at some of the great things that we've done to secure the border in that bill, that's in and of itself a win. When you look at some of the school choice components that allow parents to have a greater say in the future of their child's education, the biggest single vote that I'll ever cast. And so I'm proud of it. I think this administration means business. They want to do the right thing. When there are, I would say, nuances with the farmers or issues, it's great to have a great relationship with the White House, that you call them directly, you get engaged with them, you're in talks with them about making sure that the people back home have the help that they need. So we do that. I didn't have that in the last administration. So it's really nice to be able to pick up the phone and call the president or call somebody at the White House and put something on their radar that might not have otherwise been there on their radar. So I think it's really good. And, for us, as we move past this government shutdown, government funding is important. What does that look like? For me, I think it should be smaller and leaner and smarter. Let's stop funding things that don't matter, and let's start funding core functions of government like our military and our law enforcement. Let's make sure some of these things actually can be done. Those are some of the things, priorities I'd say globally that we're looking at doing. And we've got several bills that are ours that are, I would say, in the pipeline. They've either passed the House, they've gone through committee. One of them deals with human trafficking. Nobody likes that. This is a bill that has Republicans and Democrats on it. It's very pro-victim, meaning that it allows them to expunge their record for a charge or a conviction where they were a victim of human trafficking. But it's also pro-law enforcement. And law enforcement love it because it allows victims to tell their story. Sometimes they're not able to tell that story. They don't want to tell that story. But when law enforcement can hear that story and go after the real perpetrators, it's a good day. We've got another one called the Kayla Hamilton Act. I wish this country was a little bit smarter sometimes, had a little bit more damn sense in the way that we process people that come into this country illegally. We have unaccompanied alien children. People think of that and they think of like a small little 5-year-old. But they're under 18 and sometimes they're affiliated with gangs. We don't screen them for gang tattoos, right? We don't call their country of origin and find out if they have any prior convictions or charges that would be, probably a bad idea to put them out on the streets in our community. Kayla Hamilton was a bright 20-year-old student. She was going to go be a veterinarian, and she was killed by a UAC, an unaccompanied alien child, who, if we had called ahead of time, we would have found out that he was in MS-13. If we had looked at his body and screened him for tattoos, we would have seen that he had MS-13 related tattoos. These are just small things, I think, that could go a long way. And so we're always happy to be in the fight. We're always happy to be engaged, not only locally here, making sure that we're representing the needs of the citizens that live in this area, but also very policy-centered, making sure that we're driving the right things in Washington, D.C. You elected me to be your voice, and we try to be it. There's wallflowers and there's doers. These gentlemen do things. They get things done. There's a lot of wallflowers in Washington, D.C., but one of them is not me. And so it's an honor to represent you. You might not always agree with me. I hope that you do. But we try to take a fair shake at things, and we try to give it our all, because that's what you expect. You don't want a wallflower. You want somebody who's actually engaged in the fight and ready to get the job done. Thank you so much.
I'll do a kickoff question to get this started, but if you all think of any questions you want to ask once we make it back to the end, Ryan, I'll have you come get this microphone, and then if anyone from the public has anything they want to ask. So, Lucas, I think we'll start with you. How can the state legislature make it easier for small businesses and farmers to navigate permits and regulations?
Yes, well, I serve on the agriculture committee at the State House. I served on it since I've been there for 9 years. And what we're trying to do on that committee is just cut the time it takes for permits. That's the biggest problem, putting farmers through so much red tape. And so we're just trying to, whether the farmers are having to battle with DHEC and just over-the-top regulations, that's our biggest goal, is just to kind of cut some of the red tape. And, it's very frustrating for our farmers as well, because I hear from them a lot. It's tough enough for them to make a living like it is, but when they have to deal, with these government agencies putting them through more and more red tape, it's a drag on everyone. So just the speed of getting permits and stuff, that's probably our biggest push right now, just to make it easier for them.
Thank you. All right, Senator Williams. Are there opportunities at the state level to make financing or insurance more accessible for small business owners?
Yes, there is. We've already taken meaningful, cost-effective steps to expand access to capital while protecting taxpayers. The thing it is, it's really difficult for a small business to navigate and access finances for their small businesses. So we're trying to make it more doable for these small businesses to be able to readily access finances, working with SBA Small Business Development Center, other development financial institutions. We've also helped small businesses, especially in rural areas, tap into loan funds that are created by the state to also help reduce some of that risk, because that is a big challenge for a lot of these small businesses when they're trying to get started and get the feet on the ground. Normally it takes a small business anywhere from 3 to 5 years before they can really kind of start turning the corner. So yes, we've been working hard on that front, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but we're putting a lot of focus in that area to make it easier for small business to access capital. Because what we do know, small businesses are really the backbone of South Carolina in this country, and especially in these rural areas. So we're trying to create that environment so that small businesses can grow. And normally they have a good idea, a good business plan, a good product, but the lack of finance. And so that's what we're doing on the state level, trying to make that more accessible for small businesses, because that's where we create the bulk of our jobs, through small businesses, mom and pop type operations. And so it's important. So we're working on that front, and we will continue to do so. Sam.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Al Allen. How is the county working with state leaders to make sure rural parts of Horry get their fair share of attention and funding?
Thank you, Sandy. That's a very good point there. So, and I want to say something here. Sometimes when we try to navigate on our own with the local, state, or the federal. It is a nightmare. But what makes things successful in government and also business is relationships. And I can honestly say, us four here, we have good ones between all of us. This man here will call me and stuff out the blue and say, Brother Al, is there anything that you need and something I can help you with? Brother Kent here, I can call him anytime and he answers me. Now the Congressman and I have been friends for many, many years, but I'll tell you this little thing. A little while back, he was on Fox News at night. And we sit there and watched him, and as soon as his segment went on, Shanda texted him, good job, and he texted right back, thank you. Sometime after that, we saw him on the floor of the house, and he was working. Shanda texted him, thank you for a good job. He texted right back. So the key is to have relationships. If you want to talk to the congressman, you need to talk to Shanda. No, but the thing is, folks, most of you in here who have ever called me about something, be it taxes, building permits, that's a big thing. Because a lot of times when you get set to go down there to build something, be it a new house, a business, swimming pool, whatever, put in a driveway, you have to obtain a permit. And most people don't know what that process is. So they show up down there at the county offices, they walk in, and they have all these folks there working, all these signs, take a number in line, and then when they finally get up to the line, they say, I want to do this and that, and they're told, no, you can't do that, you got to go back and do this. Well,
Yep.
I got on our staff about it. We got a good, staff and stuff, but I chair that stuff, Aynor, infrastructure and regulation, and so which is over that. And I said, you just can't tell people no. You got to tell them why you're telling them no. And then you need to explain to them what the next steps is that they need to do, because that's our job. We are public servants. We're here to serve you. We're here to try to help your success be easier, not harder. So in turn, what is happening here? Anything that I can help you with, I will do everything I can, and if I can't, I will find that answer and I'll explain to you why it can't be done that way. If it's something outside of the county's hands, I will reach out to these men up here, and they have been extremely helpful. Be it roads, drainage, whatever the situation is. So the key is to have relationships and to understand that you've got somebody, you got a voice in Washington, you got a voice in Columbia here. And to get to know these folks and not just call them only when you need something. When you hear of them doing a good job, and we always hear, about the bad. People just have a tendency to lean toward the negative side of things and throw stones to start with. When you hear that they have stood up for you and done something and stuck their neck out, you need to call them up and thank them. You need to send them an email or something. Maintain that positive relationship. And then the next time you need help, be it your business, your farm, your family, or whatever, it'll make it a lot more pleasant. So the county's job is, we see y'all every day. And every day I hear somebody saying that how things ought to be changed or how things we should, do. All of that's absorbed. And you are heard. And I've actually had some folks to really bring some good ideas to me. Don't be afraid to do that to your representatives, because that's what we're here for. And how can we help as a county going forth with the businesses? The market's going to drive the growth. There are two things and stuff, and I get pounced on all the time and stuff, and I maybe jumping ahead of the question here. There are two things that none of us up here can control. And one is, you can't stop anybody from choosing to sell their land. You have property rights. Number two is, we as a county that handles the planning and zoning and issues the permits, we cannot stop anybody from building on their land as it is currently zoned. Do you understand that? So sometimes when you see growth and building happening, you say, well, why in the world are they allowing this to happen? To start with, that market is going to push it, okay? We are still on an uphill climb with housing. 7.5% this month of an increase. 7.5% of new home sales. The mean average cost of a home in Aynor now, this area, is $325,000. I see them shaking their heads.
That's crazy.
You know, the realtors. But the mean price for Horry County is around, what, $365. Horry County as a whole. Myrtle Beach, as you get closer, is over $600,000. Okay? We just had a reassessment year. And when a reassessment comes up, your taxes may go up. But I promise you, Horry County Council did not vote in a tax increase this year. They didn't do it for the last 2 years. A lot of times, assessment causes your taxes to increase slightly. Why? Because of the growth. And all the people that want to come to Horry County, the fastest growing county on the East Coast, because of that, that's driving up your home place costs too. Because now it's worth more than it was 10 years ago. And now with all of the farming, there's very few people who can afford to make it on small farms inside of Horry County. Big farms. Marion County and stuff included. Because it's tough. So when the elders are passing on and they're leaving this to their children, what's happening?
They're selling it.
They're selling it. They're selling it quick because they're being offered good money for it. And people that have the money are coming in here and using it, and there's nothing we can do to stop that because the market is driving it. I wish for myself that there never be another subdivision built inside of Horry County. But I know that that's not honesty. That's not truth. Because people want to come here. They're going to come here. And their money is what's driving this market. Someone suggested, why can't you put in a building moratorium? Well, sir, and so the first call, how many folks in here have a loan or a mortgage of some sort? A car loan, a business loan, a house loan? Almost everybody. If Horry County voted next week to impose a building moratorium, we would have to impose it upon the whole county because that's where the state law is. You can't impose it on one area. Probably the first call that I'm going to get is from some of our bankers. Sal, what in the world have y'all done? Have you lost your mind? Because building is really driving a strong economy here in Horry County. How many of you like to have a fire truck when you call for it? Or an ambulance? Or police car? Well, those are services provided by government, and somebody's got to pay for those, and growth is what's paying for that now. And you know, sometimes it's kind of hard, and so because you're trying in such a balance to save and protect the rural areas with that heritage. But there's one thing we can do. When they come to us and ask for rezoning, then we can work with them and hold their feet to the fire and get something out of it that will help the community. But all the properties right now that are currently zoned, anybody can build on as they're zoned. And so the county's here to try to help establish good, healthy growth because that's our job. We are concerned about what happens up D.C., State House and stuff, but about like I told my fellow councilman, we're not there to vote on wars. We're not there to vote on strong social issues. We're there to provide services for the citizens of this county. Police, fire, road, infrastructure, stormwater. And all of that has to be provided on a local level. And if it's done right and healthy, in time, that's going to help with the growth in this area. To make sure it's good, healthy growth. I'm going to hush and stuff because I'm going.
Great job. At least I can skip your next two. You answered them all at one time. Congressman Fry, in your federal interests, you represent rural business, agriculture, and some federal regulatory environment. After visiting the two businesses that we saw today, I know that there are many other issues in this area that have been worried about tariffs and also agriculture and workforce. Can you share a little bit of what you have going on at the national level on these three topics?
On tariffs and ag and
Yes,
okay.
and a little workforce.
I'll share a funny story about tariffs. So we were at the White House probably a couple months ago, and the president, a few of us in there, and the president says, "Do you know what my favorite word in the English language is?" And I said, "No, sir, I don't." Somebody said, "Love."
You did good.
He goes, "No, it's not love, but that should be number one." Okay, love. Love's my first. My second favorite word in the English language. Somebody said freedom. He goes, "Oh, that's a good one too. Okay, freedom's number two. Third favorite word in the English language, and don't give me anything else but the actual word." And we said, "Well, sir, we don't know. What's the next favorite word?" He goes, "Tariffs."
I knew.
And I share that because here's how the president thinks, broadly speaking, about tariffs. One, NAFTA gutted this country, right? You look at Marion County, Dillon County, Western Horry County. You look at a lot of the mill towns that we used to have that made textiles. After NAFTA, they hollowed up and went overseas, right? They went to Mexico, they went to China, they went to Bangladesh. And so the president, I think at his core, is a working man's president. He wants the manufacturing to come back. He wants people to have a stable income. He wants businesses to thrive. He's done this his whole life. And so tariffs are a way in which to put the United States at a competitive or an equal playing field with the rest of the world. If you look at prior to him coming in, I'm going to give you a couple examples of tariffs that I think are really obscene. If we purchase rice from India, there's a 3% tariff on that rice that we purchase from India. Okay, that's not bad. If we want to sell rice, or farmers want to sell rice to India, there is a 700% tariff on that rice. That's crazy. Like, that's not equal. Same thing goes with Japan and South Korea, right? So Japan would take these protective measures, right? They're an ally of ours. But if we wanted to sell them rice, they'd say, "This is not Japanese rice." Well, what makes Japanese rice? What needs to come from Japan? Well, it's the same dang rice that they're making in Southern California. It's Japanese rice. It's just grown in the United States. No, it's not Japanese rice. So I think the president looks at this tariffs in one, a way to equalize the playing field, right? They're not, and two, I think it's for a political purpose, right? When you have countries that are taking advantage of the goodwill of the United States, he goes and throws a tariff on it. The markets go crazy and everyone loses their head for a minute. But the point is that there are certain things that really, I would say that he's super focused on. You take the war in Ukraine. He came in and everyone said he was a Russian puppet. But at his core, he wants peace in that region, right? And so he says, okay, India, Europe says that they're with Ukraine, okay, but they're buying Russian oil, which funds the war machine, right? India, which is an ally of ours, and China, which is not necessarily an ally of ours, are buying oil from Russia. They're not supposed to. There's sanctions against Russia from selling their oil in the marketplace. But these two countries, particularly India and China, are some of the biggest purchasers of Russian oil. And that money goes straight into the war machine in Ukraine. So the president says, all right, well, this is crazy because Europe is buying their oil. They're not supposed to, but they are. India says that they don't like the war in Ukraine, but they're purchasing the oil which funds it. And if they won't stop purchasing the cheap oil, because it is cheap because of the sanctions, if they won't stop purchasing the cheap oil and stockpiling it, to fund the Russian war machine, then we're just going to put a tariff on them, and then they'll respond. Because it's more costly to not do business with the United States than it is to purchase cheap Russian oil. So I think the president looks at tariffs in two ways. One is to strengthen supply chains in the United States, to grow the economy in the United States, to get a manufacturing base in the United States. We don't make pharmaceuticals in this country. We should. We don't mine for critical minerals in this country, things that are in your smartphone or in your car. We should, but we don't. So getting those back, tariffs are a vehicle to do that. And then two is to kind of drive policy of the United States. Look, we've been ripped off for years. When you look at NATO, for example, NATO is a great organization, but we were paying 2%, 3%, 5% of our GDP toward a collective security for NATO countries. And they weren't coming up with their 2%. 2% was the required amount. So I think he looks at tariffs in a couple different ways. And so I think specifically for here, what we saw today, I think there's some concerns when people are making a business decision, farmers in the back, right? Or we visited a bicycle manufacturer, and then they wake up today with this playing field, or they went to bed with this playing field, and they wake up with a different one. I think that causes a little bit of like, well, what's going to happen? But I think at the president's core is a willingness to work with people. That's what we shared today is, when something comes out, and he says, we're going to impose this tariff, or when something happens, one of the first people that we call is the White House. And then one of the first people to engage on it is the White House. He doesn't want to hurt businesses. He doesn't want to hurt farmers. But he does want to make sure that America broadly is a more competitive place to do business, that businesses are coming back here, that people have an opportunity here to grow, that small rural America has a reason to stay in small rural America. The drivers, I think, of a rural renaissance are going to be manufacturing and returning. But people aren't going to work and stay in places that have no opportunity. They're not going to work and stay in places that don't have decent schools or good roads or infrastructure. They're going to be in a place that they've always loved and they've always enjoyed, but that they have an opportunity and that their kids have an opportunity to succeed. And so I think the president looks at that in a very healthy way. But that's how I think he broadly treats tariffs. And when something gets swept up in a macro sweep, like say the India stuff or whatever that comes down the pipeline, his administration is super easy to work with. They're great. They're fantastic. And I trust the president's instincts when it comes to this because I know where his heart's at. I know what he campaigned on, and he's delivered on that pretty broadly so far with the working families tax cut and other things that he's done. But, in the meantime, we're here to help however we can, and certainly with a great relationship with the White House, it's good to have that so that when issues like this crop up back home, you're able to message that to him and his team, and they're able to help as much as they possibly can. It's great. Thank you.
Anyone in the audience have a question so far?
I think I can do it loud enough. I don't need that singing. First of all, I'd like to take the opportunity and thank all of y'all for taking time out of y'all's busy schedule to come here, to spend this time with us and do a profession. Greatly appreciate it. My first question comes on the announcement of Google bringing proposed $9 billion to the state for jobs. What can we do to bring more of that industry
It's me again. As far as regulations and building, when the chairman of Johnny Gardner won and took over the Horry County chairmanship, I was chairing the public safety committee and stuff because of my background. And he came to me and he asked me, he said, would you consider moving over and chairing the Aynor? Because I need somebody there I can trust and stuff, because we got this building boom that's going on and it ain't slacking up. And we've got to do something better with our staff, how we deal with the public, with the homeowners, and the professional developers. And I said, okay. And so, but I never realized the learning curve, man, that I had and stuff, but I've really been on it. And thank the good Lord. But the one thing that I had pushed our staff to do is to make sure when the public comes in there, be it a single homeowner or a large professional developer, that they understand the process and where they need to start and what they need to do and what they need to present. And that they understand our current building ordinances. Now, we're going through setbacks right now. And there was a council member that had pushed that up and had asked instead to have a certain ones, 200 feet, whatever. And I said, no, we've got to give everybody that has a seat at the table an opportunity to speak on this. So in turn, I sent it back to staff and asked them to have some meetings with some of the local people and some of the local developers and let them come in and sit down and talk. In fact, the third one is supposed to be this Thursday. And in turn, this is what the public wants to see is a 200-foot, versus, and so can you afford to lose that much land and, still have that? There has to be happy medium. And in turn, let's get both sides and sit down at the table and come up with something. And then don't institute it until 6 or 12 months out. And give everybody a shot at it. And it's about like a thing we had here about 6 months ago with the new MRDP. That's a wonderful, zoning and stuff, but it doesn't work for everybody. But it was going in behind the popular church out there. And, so they wanted a community, a meeting and something. I went out there, and I thought them people were going to eat me alive to start with. And I said, hold on here a minute, folks. And so let's just talk about it. Alan don't care about us. I said, wait a minute. My daddy's buried right outside of this back door here. So don't tell me that I don't care about you. And once they realized that the people who were going to develop the land were going to develop it. And you see, this is something that most people don't stop and think. When they come to us and apply for a rezoning, what they're doing is they're asking to build outside of what is currently zoned. Now, they can build as it's currently zoned. And those people didn't quite see that. But fortunately, and so we had maps and charts and things and all of that. And the one man said, I want my children to be able to play in the backyard without seeing another house. And I said, all right, with the MRDP, they're not going to see that house. It's going to be a minimum 200 foot away with berms, trees, all of this. But if y'all don't want this, these people have invested their money and they're going to develop this land as it's zoned, and then it's going to be 15 foot out of your back door with no fence and no buffer and a 2-story house and then looking right in your kitchen window. So which one? You want option A or B? And most of the time, so when you explain it to folks, then they understand that. But everybody says and stuff that the council's on the tape and stuff and they're getting paid off. Well, brother, I missed that train. So growth is here, and the market's going to drive. But the council and the county staff, it's our responsibility to make sure that the building codes are here to, and it is safe building, it is good building, and it's healthy building. Even though we may not want all these foreigners, moving in, they got money to spend. This is America. They got a right to live anywhere in 50 states that they choose. And by us sticking our head in the sand is not going to make it go away. So in turn, we have to be able to work with people and work with developers, because those people who are developing these areas also supply a lot of employment inside of Horry County. There's electricians, there's plumbers, there's sheetrock people, there's framers, there's cement folks, there's landscaping. And everybody in here has somebody in your family that works in some of these fields. And in order for us to be able to work and to hold it down to good, healthy growth, yes, everybody at the table needs to have a voice. And as long as I'm there, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that all the way to the individual homeowner and to the big professional developers, that everybody that's got skin in the game will also have a voice in the game too. Does that help, that question?
This is my major concern with it.
Okay.
You know, my background, farming, now I'm a realtor too. Here's the problem. Local farmers fail. USDA released a report a few months back. The average farm was at $1.2 million debt. They cut payback. And here's the problem. As we go forward with these regulations, the burn, the landscaping, that stuff, it becomes unaffordable for the developer to take it down. There's only so many places the price can get cut. And I don't feel like a fifth, sixth generation family that have owned this land, paid the taxes, should have to take it on the chin and lower the price of their real estate to make it developable according to regulation. And so I would caution that as we move forward through this, yes, I want planned growth just like everybody else. I want it to look better and be better and have the infrastructure to support it. But these farmers are taking a whipping as is. The last thing they need is to have to cut the price of their land so it can be developed, and then turn around and take that money and pay off that farming debt and net zero on the whole thing. And so there's got to be a balance somewhere in there, and I think you understand it. You see it every day. You know, your district is comprised largely of farmers that are feeling this pinch, and that's the one thing that I think the community as a whole needs to understand. But I get it. Nobody's happy that all these houses are getting built. But there are only a few things that drive the economy here in Horry County. So you got to be careful not to throw the baby out with the proverbial bathwater.
Right. And one thing is, and what some people don't like to hear, is by going through zoning, you can still have some decent separation and buffers if you allow smaller lots. And some people say, well, oh, no, so we don't want small. A lot of these people moving out here don't want a big lot. They want something small, and so they ain't got to cut no grass, man, or do nothing in, and so that's all they care about. And if we can work with developers on that side of it, then it's going to end up to help those that own the land to get more value from their land, instead because the developer is able to do more. But at the same time, what you need to stop and think is, folks, we have the most strictest stormwater regulations in the state. Horry County does. So, you know, when people say, oh, all this flooding and flooding. So if I had our staff to survey Horry County, the highest point in Horry County is between Loris and Bayburg at just a little over 102 feet. Watch this now. And in order for that side of the county to drain toward the little PD, a run of 29 miles, it had less than a quarter inch of a drop. They call us the low country for a reason, Ryan, because we're a bunch of swamps and rivers. And all these folks who have never lived here, when it comes a rain shower, 3 or 4 or 5 inches, and it puddles up in the yard, are they building all these houses, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. These subdivisions are required to retain over 15% of their normal water holdings. Okay? How many of you remember last year it was in such where we had the big rain, and the swamp over here, man, it backed up, and it come across 501, it flooded Aynor. Huh? They thought it was the county's fault. All it is, they thought it was the Jordanville Farms' fault. Well, I took our stormwater director and put him in the airplane with me, and we flew that route. And you know what we found? We found that somebody bought some land over there on the PD Road and had stocked up the swamp and built them a duck blind.
True story.
True story, Jerry. You know what I'm talking about. Well, the wetland folks and stuff out of Charleston, they didn't think that was too funny, and so they're working on it. But it wasn't that new development's fault because of the stormwater requirements we require here in Horry County. They had to retain wall. We flew over and took pictures. There wasn't a bit of water coming off of that new site going into that swamp. It was all backing up because the fella had him a hunting place fixed up down there. Had a track hoe and a bulldozer in wetlands working with no permits. So you see, the next time you hear something, before you jump on it, wait until you hear the Paul Harvey side of the story. You want it?
While you're on the stormwater side, real quick, Aynor's had an issue with flooding for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be nice to be able to do a master plan of Aynor with maybe some more drainage areas, so we could actually manage the development that's coming to Aynor. I think it's 27,000 cars per day traveling through 501, 10% growth projected in our area. So we know the 501 corridor is going to gain much more concrete in the years to come. How can we be proactive in that, working with the county and offering, like, maybe even a park with a pond in it that we could actually use for two purposes, stormwater and a place to draw people to Aynor. You know, that would, if we ever get us a restaurant, we have a place to go eat, a place to go for a walk, you know? So how can we start that process now?
Well, sir, I had to be politically soft here and stuff. With the new leadership in Aynor and the new mayor coming, that is probably going to be one of the first things on the table. I have tried to push this for years with the town of Aynor. And, well, and as some of you know and stuff, because we've had this conversation, it's been difficult. And in order to get things done, again, you have to have those relationships. But I promise you this, with the new leadership in Aynor and stuff, we have some good stormwater folks and stuff, and you know them, Trent, real good. And they've been told by me to come to Aynor and to help Aynor do this. Some time back they attempted that, and it didn't get much traction, okay? But I believe it's going to get some traction now, because I'm going to go back to them, and I'm going to say, it's a new day in Aynor, and stuff, just like the chamber and stuff, and y'all are doing a good job and stuff, you know, getting this thing going. It's a new day in Aynor, and Horry County has the capability and the people and the tools to help you, and that's what we're going to do. It's about like a firehouse here. Y'all would have had a fire station right downtown, but, you know, to get past that, we provide the fire protection, which is something that the town of Aynor could not afford to do on its own. And there was some talk about, you know, pulling. I said, no, sir. We're going to continue to provide the fire protection. We're going to continue to dispatch for y'all. We're going to continue to provide the county police for y'all. We're going to continue to send our stormwater people or our road crews up here when you need them. Because why? Aynor's my home. And I promise, and I'm going to look out for you. And again, with the new leadership, new bus driver, you're going to see some things done with the chamber here. There's some plans happening and stuff, and I mean, it's all good. Sometimes you have to break the eggshell instead of scrambling egg, right? So you know, we're in the process of cracking that eggshell again. Did that help? Yes, sir, Senator. Thank you.
also want to just say, not only do you have county resources that can help with that, but you also have state resources. We have the South Carolina Office of Resilience, better known as SCORE, and that's what they do. They specialize in stormwater drainage and so forth, long-term planning to help mitigate some of this flooding that we have been experiencing here for the last 10 years or whatever, ever since Hurricane Matthew in 2016. I think we called it the 1,000-year flood, and we said we would never see that again. Congressman, in another 1,000 years, well, lo and behold, Florence came in 2018, and it was actually worse than Matthew. So we established SCORE. They have a lot of resources we put in their budget to help mitigate some of this flooding, do some long-term planning, and we can help with that. And I think Al said something that is very important. A lot of this is driven from the local level. If you don't have the local leadership that's really driving this and building those relationships that Al kept alluding to, that's what it's all about. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how you get things done. It's based on relationships. And David, you know this, who chairs this local Chamber of Commerce. We've tried to work with the local folk to do some things and make some changes. And you know, none of us like change, right? You know, because it takes us out of our comfort zone, and we don't like that, but we all know and will agree that change is inevitable. And so what I've always said to people, what we have to do, we have to embrace change, and we have to be part of change, but you want to be able to determine what that change will look like. And so you got to be involved and drive it from the local level. And we will help you. There are resources. I'll use Marion for an example. We were able to secure $500,000 through SCORE to do a county-wide storm water drainage study. And so we know where all the problems are. And so what are we doing now? We've now appropriated funds to start addressing those problems that we see in Marion County, because a lot of the covers, a lot of the pipes that were built 50 years ago, they were not built to handle the volume of water that we're experiencing now. And you say, what's changed? Well, one thing, we've had a lot of growth. And anytime you have buildings, you have cement, whatever, it changed the flow of that water. And so we're here to help you. You know, the Bible says you have not because you ask not. And we got too many asking, Congressman, in other areas. So we want to work with the local leadership to help with that. We can do a stormwater drainage study for Aynor to see exactly where the issues are and then what it would take to address those issues. And it's like eating an elephant. You know the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's what we do. And so we want to work with you on that. And there's resources, state resources to help with that, because I know Aynor is like most small rural communities. They don't have the resources, they don't have the wherewithal to address a lot of these issues. That's why you have the state, that's why you have the federal and the county, and it's the three-legged stool, and we work in concert. So I just want to share that.
Thank you, Senator Williams, and thank you, Councilman Allen Lowe, for great answers to that. Real quick, it's a good time to have just 1 second. I will definitely give you a chance. I just want to do a quick commercial break here. But I just want to say thank you for being here. Number one, certainly appreciate the questions. We got some more. We're not over here. Did want to mention one thing. Next Monday night, we will have an opportunity to meet the town candidates that are running for town council at Town Hall. So similar to tonight, a lot of questions and answers. I think these guys have done a great job of talking about the relationships and how we got to work together. The chamber is here to be an advocate for this local community, and we're just getting started. We're figuring a few things out ourselves. We've got some great people on the board. And so be a part. If you're not a part, opportunity to be a member. We got sign-up sheets out front. And I would encourage you to come out next Monday night as well. It's a good opportunity to speak to the local list of local levels. It's the town folks who are running for council. And I know Landon's here, Ashley's here. We appreciate them being here. Councilman, I won't get your name. I'm sorry. Paul. Thank you, Ms. Grill. She's here as well. We just certainly want to do more of this advocacy. That's really what we're, as a chamber, about, is to engage with you guys as local leaders and also help kind of relay some of the messages out there. So thank y'all again for that. I just want to take a quick minute to do that. One question before we jump to yours. I'm coming your way.
Hey, we want to go back to Martin because we didn't answer his first question either.
Correct. That's the one I want to go back to. How are we driving jobs? Thank you.
Yes. Good question. He asked earlier about how do you attract more jobs in this area, and I'll give you my vantage point on how I think we can do that. One, you need a favorable tax climate that makes this state and this area attractive for jobs. I think our state does an incredible job with that. I think our local governments do an incredible job with that. Our client just expanded in Dillon County. We were just there last week, and I talked to them. I said, where are you located otherwise? And they said, Portland, Oregon, and Dillon, South Carolina. I said, Portland? Whew. That's tough. They're like, yeah, if we could get out, we would. But it is night and day dealing with the Oregon government as compared to South Carolina. So I think you've got to have a favorable tax climate. I think you've got to have a favorable government. People who want businesses to come here. You see that at the state level. You see it at the local level. Then you've got Sandy over here who does a great job recruiting and kind of maintaining those relationships. I think that's at least a component. The other thing is you got to have workforce, right? And to the extent that, say, a facility was coming to this area and we didn't have a workforce to service them, you've got a great asset, and she works with them on this too, in our local technical schools to develop programs so that people can pipeline straight from high school or college and have a technical job with a skill. We do that better than most states. And I would put us up on a workforce development perspective, I'd put us up there at the top. I hear it all the time is you've got to develop that program and make sure that you have a stable workforce. I think businesses look at quality of life. Employees care about that. What does the quality of life look like? In Horry County, I think it's pretty dang good. You got the beach right here. You got a whole bunch of natural resources and things to do in Aynor and Loris and downtown Conway and Myrtle Beach. I think you need an interstate access. I think if you look at major manufacturing facilities, they look within a radius of how quick can I get my widget to market. We've got the Dillon Inland Port, which is huge for farmers and harbor freight and things like that. That's massive. But if we had a direct access interstate, it would be even better. That's also a public safety issue too, from evacuating not only the 400,000+ people that live here year round, but also for people who visit here in the middle of August, right? So I think that's the secret sauce of this, of South Carolina and certainly this area. I think we need greater access to natural gas. That's an impediment I think that we're working through. I say we collectively. We are all working through that. There's a pending lawsuit, and this is, by the way, permitting reform. This is the dumbest shit of all time, by the way. That you have a pipeline that goes through this area, and you want to put a bigger one in the same area, and you can't do it because you got to get new permits. And then you're challenged at the federal level, or the state level in this case. You're challenged at the state level, and it's at the, I think it's at the Supreme Court level right now. Is that right? Supreme Court level? So you got to wait it out. You got to wait for the courts to finally decide. So when they talk about permitting reform at the state house level, and we talk about it at the federal level, that's the kind of junk that we want to get rid of. That if you've already blessed a business with a permit to kind of cut through here or have an easement for power lines or natural gas, that you shouldn't have to go through that same crazy process with the litigation if you're just expanding the capacity of your natural gas. So I think those types of things, one, we do a lot of great things in this area. We have a lot of great recruiting. But two, and more importantly, once you get the natural gas issues solved, you make this a business-friendly environment with people who want business to come here. That's the secret sauce. We do it better than most. Thank you.
Question up here?
It's not more or less a question, but more or less a statement. I'm not going to speak for anybody else in this room because 100% of the time, like, I don't know exactly what you guys do and what you offer to business in Horry County or to Aynor. Some of you I do, some of you I don't. But I don't feel like it's fair for me to be able to speak for anything that I'm not a part of or I don't do business in anymore or currently. What I will say, I think the biggest concern for people and other business owners in Aynor and Horry County is that to not necessarily, I don't think they're anti-growth or progress. I think people want to see that, and I know we want to see it in a healthy way. I think the issue is that some people are concerned that they don't have a voice, or that voice is not necessarily, we tend to forget sometimes where we come from, where that growth goes to. The other thing is we're in agriculture. This is an agriculture town, as much of you know. This is started out as an agriculture county. And all we're asking, I think, sometimes is just don't forget that, and what can we do to continue that? Because not everybody's in $1.2 million worth of debt. Some farmers are actually trying to diversify and trying to become more of a part of the community and give the community what it needs and possibly what it asks for. We're trying to do so much more on so less, but we don't want to lose that. We still want that to be a part of the heart of Aynor and the county. And I think we just need to remember that as we move forward. So my question is what can we do as a community, as a chamber, to represent all business in Aynor moving forward, and just remember those parts?
Well, it's me again. I can say from a personal perspective, because our business depends on agriculture. And every time a field has a manufactured home or house built in it, that's one less field that we have the opportunity to work. Because we depend on the farmers with our work. We do crop dusting. We spray grain crops, we spread fertilizer and seed and all of these. So, in Horry County, as the farming declines, that hurts us. That hurts me. So I've been flying across this county for years, and it breaks my heart to see some of the finest farmland you've ever seen. Mac Rabin had, one of the finest farms in this county. And my very first year on council, when he constructed the large new grain bins and stuff, and he put in the scales there, he called me up and he said, I need some help out. He said, I've got 13 different farmers with grain stored in here, and this road is a mess. We can't even get the trucks out and in because the rain got soft. That road, Max Road, was a county road. I drove out there, I saw it and stuff, and it was a mess, and he said, we've got to get these grain bins unloaded, and we got to get this grain moved. And I called our county administrator, and I said, look, you don't know me that good yet, but if you don't give me some help out here on this road and ASAP, you're going to get to know me a lot better than you want to know me. And the very next day, Horry County Public Works moved a road crew out there and started to work on that road, cleaned the ditches, cut the road, put down millings on it to where they could start moving the farmers' grain out. I was raised up on a small farm out here. My heart's in the agricultural industry. And it hurts to see this with the growth. But again, children are selling the land because they can't make it farming. But those that want to try to stay, we are changing some things and stuff with agritourism. And we're making it easier to get those permits for those that want to have those things. Now, everybody can't do the same thing. We understand that. So in turn, with us working with the state in Clemson, we're constantly looking for ways to help these farmers out here, because most of them have worked the land all their lives. They've never asked for any help from the government, the county, nobody else. And now, at the end of their agricultural careers, they're facing something that they can't hardly handle. And in turn, they need help. They need everybody's help up here and stuff. And we're here to help them and to do all we can. We've had a meeting with the farmers down at the courthouse. And we send out the word and stuff. And, you know, they come and stuff. And we meet and we talk about things. Is there a magic answer? Is there one shoe that fits all? No. But as we grow, we are going to have to learn how to diversify and how to do other, things and stuff. Because our work has pushed us out into North Carolina, pushed us out Midwest, and they're even having their same issues and stuff as we're having. People can't keep building and using up the farmland. I say build on forested land, leave the open fields and the good cropland because, hey, I like to eat too, and so does the next person. So in turn, we've got to figure out a way to work with people and the landowners and stuff to try to preserve some of this and stuff. The state, I think, has a program that I found out about old barns and stuff to where if you have an old, barn and stuff that, been in your family for years and years, you can apply for a historical grant to actually keep that barn up because we're losing them. Used to be a lot of barns around the county and stuff, but you can't hardly find them and stuff anymore. And it's sad and stuff because we're fastly losing a culture that most of us grew up in. And there's no easy answer. But we can't just quit and throw our hands up. We've got to keep looking and thinking and bouncing ideas off of each other. Because in order for us to survive, we've got to learn to hop on that train instead of standing there and let that train overrun us somehow. So we'll get there. We'll get there. Yes, sir.
Thank you. A great question, and let me say I'm right there with you. I'm a rural guy. I still live on the family farm right across the river there in Marion County. I raise beef cattle, so I know the importance of our farmland and keeping it in production. I've always said that we don't need to fix rural identity. We need to protect it, and we need to grow from it. And we need to keep our support programs to keep farmland in production. I think that's important. I think I support programs that will give landowners alternatives to resist pressure from selling their farmland. And we've done that. We've done that in Columbia. We've created a conservation easement where farmers can now put their farmland into a conservation bank easement program and have strong local control, can still farm that land. That is very important. I've supported legislation whereas, if, like a municipality or a township wants to annex you into the city, and that's farmland, and you don't want to sell your farm, you don't want to be and it's farmland and you don't want to be annexed into the city, you can opt out. We passed legislation to do that. So we know the importance of keeping our farmland in production, and we will continue to support that. What people fail to realize, agriculture is still the #1 economy in South Carolina, agribusiness, $51.2 billion, the agriculture industry. We're talking about agribusiness, that's agriculture and forestry. 269,000 jobs that is provided in the agribusiness industry. So it is so important and vital that we protect our farms as much as we can. But at the same time, we have the younger generation that don't have the sentimental value or the affinity for the farmland like we have. And when they dangling that money in front of them, you know, and so we're trying to give them alternatives. And Al mentioned it, agritourism. We're seeing more and more of agritourism now, and we support that. And even it escapes me, but there's a lot of programs that we have put in place by way of the state to support agriculture, and we will continue to do that. And we understand the importance of that because right down the road from where I live in Marion County, right there on 41, they're building houses, so it's everywhere. And so we got to do what we can to protect our farmland, but then also, you know, the housing is a big boom and is generating a tax base in these areas. So we have to find that balance, if you will, where we can coexist. And the best way to do that is through planning and zoning. That's how you control that. And you know, we can coexist. And we want housing, and we want businesses that flourish and grow, but we want smart growth. And the way you do that, you have to do that through planning and zoning. You have to have those things in place where you determine where that growth will take place, and that's so important. But we have some challenges. Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yes, sir.
Let's use the mic, Jerry, because we got some folks online here.
Johnson, he talked loud.
Maybe I'm gonna give Al a break, I don't know, but cost of doing business statewide, especially east of 95, with the cost of building insurance, liability insurance, and all of that. Talked with a lot of insurance people trying to get insurance every year for a couple different businesses. And I'm not scared to say it, mine in town, Johnson Funeral Home's $30,000 a year. And their excuse is, we don't have companies that want to write insurance for people that's east of 95 because of the hurricanes and floods. What can we do as far as on the local level, state level, or to entertain, to bring more insurance companies? I don't know if these companies just don't write in the area, choose not to write in the area, or what do we need to do with that?
Well, I can't speak specifically for the funeral home business, but we just tackled in the State House liquor liability, you know, for restaurants and bars. That's been a big issue that we've dealt with the last few years. And you know what it is it was pretty much a battle between the insurance companies and the trial lawyers. And we tried to come to a medium because restaurants and bars all over the state were having to close. And you know, we pretty much said, hey, as long as you sell if you sell a certain amount of food, you know, if it's not just all alcohol you selling, you gotta pretty much, they're gonna be able to lower the rates for you a good bit. You know, the Department of Insurance, we met with them a good bit about just car insurance. I know everybody's car insurance has been skyrocketing over the years. We gotta look at other states. Georgia's doing a good job the last year or so, but listen, you got a bunch of lawyers out there, ambulance chasers, and that's pretty much what's driving up our insurance. So unless we can tackle that issue, we got lawyers in the State House, and that's a battle that we face with them. You know, they enjoy making money on suing people. And Mr. Fry knows exactly what I'm talking about. Not that he does it, but he served with a bunch of lawyers up there as well. So I mean, when you battle with these people, you know, you battle with their money. And so I think we made a step with the liquor liability this year, but, you know, we got a lot of other issues. We one of the highest states in the highest with car insurance and stuff. And we, you know, I think that's something we're going to look at. I'm not sure if it's going to happen next year because it'll be the last year of a 2-year cycle, but it's going to be on our minds. And you know, I feel like we have to do something. I believe we stepping in the right process, but you know, it's difficult when you battle a bunch of lawyers up there. That's just on any issue it is.
Less than 30 seconds. One, most of this is driven at the state level. It really is. And so I think the key for South Carolina in the General Assembly is, like they did with the liquor liability this year, is how do you increase providers that come into the state, which increases competition. If you're the only game in town, what incentive do you have to lower your rates, right?
None.
I think some of this is the lawyer aspect too, but I would also be curious too, like a counterpunch on that is, you know, if to the extent that they tackle an issue, is insurance provider X actually going to lower their rates, right? Like I would actually want to see that. I think those are legitimate questions. The State House has done, I think, the first step, or they're doing the first step right now, which is to analyze what is South Carolina's current legal framework on insurance, casualty, property insurance, liability, all these things. What are they doing on that, and how do they make it more competitive? Because there are states, right? Georgia being one, maybe on car insurance. There are states that have a lot of competition. What is Florida doing that we're not doing, to the extent that they have the same problems? So most of this is driven at the state level, but I know that they're working on it, and I did want to mention that committee. I think we've got one or two. Are you on that committee? There's an insurance committee.
Chairman is Jeff Johnson.
Jeff Johnson, who represents Conway up this way too, so they're chairing it. But I think the smart thing for South Carolina to do, which they're doing, is to figure out what has caused the dry up of providers. Why are there not providers in this state on any number of insurable acts? And how do we increase competition? I think a component of that might be the legal framework with the lawyers that he talked about. But again, I think any policy needs to be like, well, if we did this, how would it actually lower my rate? Like if we're just going to go after, say lawyers as an example, is this going to actually lower my rate? Or how does this increase providers to the state? That's where South Carolina needs to go. They seem to be heading in the right direction. So thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Come on.
Just to reiterate, I think they both nailed it. Representative Atkinson mentioned about liquor liability. We took that on this year. We didn't get to where we really wanted to be, but it was the best we could get this year. It's always a big fight when we dealing with these big insurance deals. And let me just say for the record, I was a co-sponsor of the liquor liability bill because I'm pro-business. And I can tell anybody, you can check my voting record in Columbia and you will find that Kent Williams is pro-business. I've always been pro-business because let me tell you, it's the businesses that create the jobs, the businesses that hire our community members, our family, our friends. And so I think the Congressman mentioned this earlier, it's all about creating a business-friendly environment where businesses can thrive and be profitable. And I say this often, people don't create businesses to employ people, but they create businesses to make money, to be profitable. And if they're not profitable, they're not going to stick around. They're not going to be doing business in our community. So you have to create that environment. And so when we're taking on the liquor liability and with the insurance companies, and like everyone said, it's about competition. And we don't have a lot of underwriters in South Carolina, and that's what drives up the cost. And like you said, if you don't have competition, why compromise? You don't have to compromise because you take it or leave it. And most times you got to take it because you got to have it. But that's where we are. And you know, believe it or not, insurance companies are not necessarily regulated like a lot of other businesses. And we're having that conversation, and that's quite an undertaking. But we're looking at that because we know we have a real challenge here in South Carolina when it comes to insurance and with the storms that we've had. We've had several storms, not just here in this area, but, you know, all across this state. And
you know, what we've seen is really sad, but we are trying to address that from the state level.
Well, as a small business, naturally we say everything falls downhill to the bottom of the ladder and it's passed on to the consumer. But at what point in time can your small businesses stay in business when it's costing them $150,000 every January the 1st between insurance, taxes, and everything else that we have
Let's
to
all
pay?
do it at the same time.
It makes it very challenging.
Very challenging.
And you can only pass on so much to the consumer because the consumer can only.
They're going to go down to Walmart.
That's right.
We don't have Walmart now.
Well, as an independent insurance agent, we've lost 14 home running carriers in our area in the last 4 years. So everyone is pulling out the same 4 or 5 carriers, which is not good for the consumer at all. On a personal level, I feel like liquor liability report reform was a shiny, flashy object we can grab for that $5 or $6 million spent in the state, but we should have been tackling the auto side, because auto affects everybody. And I hope you guys can push that. I appreciate you starting it, the conversation. And I know that McCracken, is great at his job. I watched some of those conversations, but we need to get into the auto side. And on the home side, slip and fall is also in the businesses. Slip and fall lawsuits are almost as prevalent as auto
It's crazy.
lawsuits. So we got on both sides. So the reform does need to happen with our laws. And that's where you guys have to fight for us.
And
That's
that's
what we need.
point. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's what we need.
So we probably got time for 1 or 2 more questions. If anybody in the audience has anything else?
Well, too, and such, if I might say, lawsuits, if we didn't have as many lawsuits and such, seem like insurance and stuff wouldn't be as high. So, but if you don't believe many people would go after you, and so if you let that ag plane fly across somebody's house,
Killed their rose bush.
yeah, boy, and so they killed grandma's 100-year-old rose bush, and so it was worth. Sad thing about it is, we live in a society where everybody's hunting the easy check, easy come and easy go. We don't trust people as we used to trust them. And it's sad and stuff, and it's, driving up everything and stuff. But I'd like to say this, if I can, on a positive note, since I know we're about out of time. How many of you have heard about the new rec center coming to Aynor? How many of you have heard about the new Rural Civic Center? You know that those are 2 different projects and stuff, and I want to thank my dear friend Senator Kent here for helping us with our rec center. He helped us acquire the old fire tower property out on Highway 319, which joins the Morris Graham area. We are preserving the fire tower. We are going to preserve that from a historical point. And we've already got plans in, and I fought really, really hard, $12 million to build a new rec center out there, which will have new soccer fields, football, baseball, pickleball courts for those of you just getting into that, gymnasium inside. But you know what happened? We ran into something, and something I've been pushing these guys and stuff, because my first year on council, they said, vote with us, we'll bond the money, we'll start building the rec centers, but we need to build them where the population is at first. Well, when they built the north end, they built the Carolina Forest and the south end, they said, oh my, we run out of money. We can't build the one in Aynor or more. So 2 years ago, I said, if y'all don't fund the rec center for Aynor, I said, I will never vote for nothing else for any of y'all on this council, because I'm tired of it now. It's time for our people to get something. So they did. We got the money, and it's in there, and I had been on our staff, and I was told the other day, the permits are being held up in Charleston because of the government shutdown. But it's coming. They were supposed to start construction on it before the end of this year. Now, also, with the new Rural Civic Center, we purchased 500 acres out here between Highway 501 and Highway 319 off of Hardwick there. You, as the taxpayers, own that land now. We just voted to spend $800,000 on the new design team 2 weeks ago to start the actual physical design of that. We gave 25 acres to the South Carolina State National Guard and stuff because the adjutant, called me and stuff, man, he talked with me, on the phone about it. So he said, if y'all could give us a piece of that land, and so we got big plans. And so they own 25 acres out there, and they're supposed to build a multi-regional readiness center out there for emergency response. It's going to be big and all that. It's their #1 funding priority from the Department of Defense, he told me, in Washington, D.C., with the state. Permits held up, government shut down. Okay?
See if you can work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
I'll call Chuck Schumer.
All about relationships.
Let Shannon do it.
With this new civic center, with the help and stuff from the state and the feds and stuff, because I'm going to be tagging on their coattails again and wanting more money.
I think we got $5 million.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so I believe you did. And so we got about just over $40 million to go towards it after the land has already been paid for. And what you need to understand is this is not just going to be a weekend horse arena show. That's right. Yes, sir. It will be the biggest and the best in the state of South Carolina, comparable with the one in Perry, Georgia. Because the design team who is on it has built like 23 of them around the country. We're going to have everything from barrel racing, PBR, monster truck show. Might even have George Strait concert. Yeah, we're going to fill it up. But it's going to be available for our community here. And we've already got a lot of these businesses inquiring. You'd be surprised. Like the hotels, stuff, the restaurants and stuff that's in that area that are already looking, because they were waiting on us to make that vote to spend that money to get the final design. Yes, sir, Jerry.
If you haven't been to Perry, Georgia, it's nice. They just built a new motel on their grounds.
Yep.
So if we get into Perry, Georgia, y'all going above and beyond, in my opinion.
We've already got verbal commitments from, what's the one and stuff that your daughter's in and stuff, the
That'd be the
national?
National South Carolina High School Rodeo.
We've got verbal commitments from them, from the national barrel
national
racers,
level.
from the PBR, that if we will build this facility, that each one of those organizations will put 2 shows in every year. That's going to be huge.
On the national level, there was 1,900 contestants in Rock Springs, Wyoming this year. Over 2,300 horses, and I forgot how many thousands of people.
And that's going to bring in money. And that's going to open opportunity for farmers to provide hay and storage and transportation, all these things that's needed for these shows. I want you to think about this. And one good thing about it is, some of that beach crowd, I don't mean to throw off on the beach crowd, so you're not quite over there, so you're in Sox team. Some of them wanted to go over there on that beach side at International. I said, you can't put a multi-rural civic center at the beach. It's got to be in the rural area. And I fought extremely hard for that. So that train's left the station. And the good thing about it is we are looking for big things. And it's close enough to the beach, even though, some of us steer clear of the beach, especially during summertime. These people will come and bring their big, nice RV diesel pushers and all this stuff, and they'll stay out there, and they're close enough to the beach to drive over to shop or to eat. It's a win-win for everybody. It's going to be huge for this area, Marion County, Horry County, because it's going to be ours. It's going to be a rural thing. And the price tag will be over $100 million on it. It will be the largest single capital improvement project that Horry County has ever taken on outside of the RIDE programs. Yes, sir. And so that's something That's something that us country folk, we can be proud of.
Thank you, Al. We're gonna do one quick, answer from all of our panelists before we close out tonight. And this is, we have, let me remind you all, we have 4 minutes. So if you could leave one message with the local business community tonight, what would it be?
Well, the message that I would leave for the local business community tonight is to know that you have a voice in Columbia. You have support from your senator. I get it. As I stated earlier, I am pro-business. I have demonstrated that. I know what it means to create that environment so businesses can flourish and grow and be profitable. We got some experience in that area as well on the local level. You know, having served for as the deputy county administrator for the past 26 years, and now kind of pitch hitting as they get a new administrator. So we understand it very well from the local community, from the local level, and the state level. So we're here, and we want to support you, and we want you to grow. There's a lot of potential here in Aynor. I'm telling you, guys are sitting on a gold mine.
Yeah.
But you got to get busy, you got to get ahead, and you got to drive this. You don't want nobody else to drive this for you. You want to drive it yourself. And we're here as a support group to help you drive this and become all that you can be. When I look at downtown, you know, even in the last 3 or 4 years or so or less, you all have had a lot of retailers to move in downtown on 8th Avenue. I mean, you need to look at your downtown revitalization, repurposing some of these buildings that you all have downtown. There's a lot of opportunity here that businesses would love to come here and be a part of this community. Even I thought about a business incubator. You know, the best way sometimes to start a business, attract business is to grow your own. You can do that right here in Aynor, and we're here to help you in every way possible. And thank you all so much for giving me the opportunity to have served and represented you for the past 21 years in the South Carolina Senate. I do not take that lightly. I feel like I'm a part of this community. I've always been a part of this community. I see Max and Carmichael sitting over there with Aynor Tire Mart. You all that don't know this, I got a little stock in that place. And so and so we love Aynor. We love Aynor, and we love this community. We love the people. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great being here tonight, hearing questions from y'all. But yeah, I'm looking forward to working with the town of Aynor. You know, I think that the city, the mayor, the city council, the biggest thing I feel like we can bring for the town is bringing money back to the area. Talking about downtown revitalization, I was able to get the town of Marion a good bit of money a few years ago to redevelop stuff downtown, and I look forward to just meeting with the city council and the mayor and just listen, find out what their needs are, because the money's out there to bring back. But like Senator said, you got to ask us for it. I mean, I remember a few years ago, we got the city of Marion a good bit of money. Next town over started getting upset, you know, raising Cain, why didn't y'all get us money? We're like, hell, you never asked us, you know? We're just not going to bring money if you don't ask us. So that's the number one thing, just ask us to help you. We'll be glad to. You know, another big thing we did this year was cut income tax. You know, that's going to help put some money back into the community. You know, we got a lot more taxes we need to cut besides the income tax. I was hard on maybe trying to cut property taxes, something like that, maybe eliminate the income tax, raise the sales tax a little bit. I don't know if that's popular amongst the people, but I thought that would have been a good plan. You know, it didn't get nowhere this year, but I think in years to come, you could see maybe a push to increase sales tax some, because that's the fairest tax for people to pay, and try to eliminate the income and do something with this property tax. But thank y'all for having us here tonight.
stuff. But I want to thank all y'all for being here and stuff, because we're vested Aynor too and stuff, because we got insurance with Horry. The last 20 years and stuff, every truck or car that we bought been from Horry. Max is up there and stuff, man. I see him a lot up there and said, boy, I'll tell you what, this thing will wear out, man, when you buy it. You'll fix them though. And we even got some stock with Johnson Funeral Home that I hope that we ain't got to claim no time soon. But there and stuff. But I love Aynor. Aynor's a wonderful place, and in order for it to succeed, we've all got to be able to work together. We've got to encourage each other and lift up each other. We all have our bad days and stuff, but these men up here are working hard for you all. And if you don't have it, it's because, Lucas said, and stuff, you haven't asked and stuff. Even the good book and stuff, as Kent, quoted, you have not because you ask not. And when you do ask, you ask amiss and stuff, the Bible said. So, ask and let's work together, because a rising tide instead of the chamber, and EDC says it lifts all boats and stuff. And I appreciate our congressman here because of the work that he's done and stuff. And I know that his job is not easy either and stuff, going and stuff back and forth and stuff. He's got a family to look after, and oh man, the world is in a mess and stuff. And I'll leave you with this: if you ain't ready to meet the Lord, you need to get ready, because time is short.
Leave you with some optimism on the message about, for businesses here in this area. One, you have a country that is the envy of the world as a place to do business. Don't take my word for it. Ask anybody in another country, who do they want to do business with? Who is the best place to do business with? That's the United States. That has changed in this year because of the president. He's a business guy. He wants to make deals. You're seeing record investment, reinvestment back into the United States from companies. I think it's huge. The second bit of optimism is you have a state government, both in the governor's mansion and in the state legislature. Look, you got 2 Republicans up here and 2 Democrats. We fight on a lot of stuff, right? On business, we're pretty much in line. You got a state legislature and a governor who wants to attract business here. They're doing so, and they're doing so quite successfully. South Carolina, I think, in Business Insider magazine, was ranked as like the first or second place to do business in the country. That's huge. That doesn't happen overnight. That happens with sane policies coming out of state government, a governor who cares, wants to do this, and a state legislature who's invested in it. A little bit of optimism on the local level. You have a county council that wants business to thrive here. They get more money in their tax coffers, but they want people to succeed. They want this to be a place where you invest and reinvest and raise your family and enjoy life. So I think on a whole host of fronts, you have that. You got economic development that wants to attract and has some success in attracting business. I think that's massive. And the sky's the limit, because this area has a ton of promise, a ton to offer businesses that want to thrive here, to relocate here. And now you've got a Chamber of Commerce, right? I think that is the glue that holds it all together. That is the glue that tonight brought federal, state, and local and EDC onto the same stage to talk about how business works, how we can improve it. I think that's good. You're either at the table or you're on the menu, right? So like you're doing that now by hosting this, giving us a glimpse of what happens in Aynor, what you're facing in Aynor with stormwater, with some of the rural development stuff, what's impacting the farmers. I think that's critical. So I'm pretty optimistic and bullish about where Aynor is right now and where it can head. But it's really refreshing to have a Chamber of Commerce that's engaged in that, because you care, we all care, ultimately, about the future of this community and the citizens that call this place home. So thank you.
Thank you. Can we give them a big hand? So lastly, before we close, I do want to say one of the things they mentioned tonight was about relationships and building those relationships, and being a part of the chamber and having you all here is one way to build those relationships. Letting us know who it is you want to hear from, what topics you want us to bring in front of you, and we are happy to do that, and we are so glad to have you involved and wanting to do something better to help not only our community, but the businesses that are here. So I want to remind you all again, next Monday night, October 27th, from 6 to 7 at Aynor Town Hall, to meet your Town of Aynor
Council.
council members
Candidates.
and mayor
Candidates.
for council and mayor. Do not forget, next week, Monday night, October 27th, 6 to 7 at Aynor Town Hall. So thank you all again for being here, and thank you very much to our panelists. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us. Thank you.